Hey, good morning, everyone. I'm Brian, Career Advice UK, and I will be live streaming for about the next hour or so, taking your questions on anything career related. This includes questions such as why is my CV getting missed? Why am I not getting any responses back on my CVs? Why can I interview well and get interviews, but never get the offer? What does it take to start a business, a small business in the UK? Where can I get support for that small business? Is a degree in psychology at the bachelor's level a good idea, a good degree to get? If not, what can I get as an alternative? And more. Just to introduce myself, I'm Brian, owner and founder of Leap Forward Careers, providing people support to help them to navigate the UK job market by giving interview support, CV review, CV writing services, planning in job search, long-term job search support, and more. So if you have a question about the services, feel free to message me or check out leapstartcareers.com. And so today, what I am going to be talking about, I believe, are two different things. For about the first part, I'm going to talk about disability confidence scheme. It is the scheme from the government to provide interviews for the disabled, and spend a bit of time also talking about the third interview, the types of questions, what to expect, what are employers looking at when you hit that third interview, because I do get a lot of questions regarding third interview. So get ready, get set, and let's have a good discussion today. And so just to give you heads up, and the reason why I picked the disability confidence scheme, because tomorrow on another social media platform, I am going to have an article going live at 8 a.m. talking about my own personal experience with the scheme. I think it's a really good article. It is a bit, it's very truthful, based on my own personal experiences. So I would encourage you tomorrow, 8 a.m., the 6th of July, to take a look at that article. So, for those of you who don't know, what is the interview confidence scheme? It is a scheme in the UK that will guarantee those who are disabled the ability to get an interview for a job. Now, a lot of people think that if you get the interview, it also means that you will get the job. It doesn't. It is in my opinion, and I've done a lot of writing on it on another social media platform regarding it. It is not. It's a scheme that employers can apply to. They get badges. And it really doesn't have a lot of bite to it. It just says that they will interview someone that has a disability that meets the job description, but it really doesn't go into what it is you need to meet. It really doesn't get into, what is it, that what do you need to meet to get the interview. It doesn't really guarantee, that you'll get a second interview if it's going to be on second round. It just doesn't do it. The thing that I argue in my article tomorrow is that it lacks a lot of bite. It doesn't really obligate employers to hire. It really doesn't even have, the teeth to go and say back, hey, if you're not really, if you apply for it and you're not interviewing disabled, then you really need to lose the certification. It doesn't even do that. Hey, the silver, thank you for the roses. That is so amazing. Thank you so much. Oh, that's amazing. Thank you so much. Um, it is really a program without teeth. And what I've, in my writings, if you do read it on the other platform, I do talk about what I use as a comparator is the U.S. Department of Vocational Rehabilitation, only because am somewhat familiar with it. And with that program, it is a government body usually, that receives state funding but it's administered at each state level to help the disabled into the jobs. And it's not like the disability access or disability confidence scheme. It is really government going in, offering tax incentives to employers to hire. And when I say tax incentives, I'm talking not about the deduction of expenses for hiring, like a computer, or hey Harry, good to see you. Not like buying a computer or sit to stand type of desk to deduct those expenses, but actually a tax credit that once they get the tax bill, they actually can take some credit and apply it against that to reduce their overall total tax liability, and thereby actually saving money on expenses. And also too, in the U.S., what they will do is take away and prevent people from getting government contracts should they not hire disabled, and have, that are not really conducive to hiring disabled. And so again, there is a bit of an incentive there for those who take government money to ensure that they have the systems in place. And again, there is a bit more of a punitive system in the U.S. where if they don't hire disabled, discriminate, they can actually face fines. And it has a lot more bite and teeth to it, because it does provide for the disabled, like the Department of Vocational Rehabilitation, they will actually provide training to those who are disabled, work with the disabled to really identify what career paths and what career fields are open to them with their disability, and then give them the training and the support to ensure that they can do it. And once they are in the job, ensure that they can actually stay in the job by providing incentives to an employer, providing incentives to the disabled, and working together to make the workplace more conducive for the disabled, which is, in the UK, I have found, living and working in the UK, what I have found, it is this. It is very much a situation where, we legislate, and if the legislation doesn't work, we then come in with soft law like disability confidence scheme, access to work, and in other programs that just doesn't do it. And so because now it's not working, so what we do again, now we start piling on things like disability passport, which is, I think, again, and if you do read my writings on the other site, I think it is a abomination. I think it is a horrible, horrible idea, the disability passport. I wouldn't recommend it, and it would be something I would absolutely, as somebody who is disabled myself, because I do have severe asthma, I would be one that would totally refuse to participate in something like that, because it is not conducive. It is a massive barrier, and I have so many worries about it. And so really, to really be conducive to hiring disabled. I don't believe, you know, it requires a bunch more schemes. And again, the disability confidence scheme is supposed to go through a major overhaul and be fixed, quote, by the end of the year, which I don't think it is really really going to be fixed, because I don't think this government is prepared or equipped to do it. Because really what I believe need to do is not use more government intervention, because as we can already see with the disability confidence scheme, that government totally got it wrong. And I believe what it really just needs to do is to use the tools that already exist, which is fines, loss of government contracts, and working with businesses to offer incentives to hire, and also working with the disabled to really get in there and really work with them to understand what their disability is and the type of support that they need, and then provide them with that support. It is not a quick fix. I don't believe it's a quick fix. I believe that it is very much, I think, marketplace driven and not legislative, not soft law driven solution to it. And I just really strongly believe, while it is, while the government is touting, the disability passport scheme, I totally disagree with it, because I don't, like I say, agree with it. I think it is a horrible blunder that will act as a total roadblock for the disabled and keep people out. Because really, at the end of the day, what works for maybe Mary in accounting doesn't work for Joe in accounting. And so they may have same type of disability, same type of, or similar types of difficulties working at work. But both of them may have two totally different needs. And so by doing disability passport, it almost creates this, for lack of a better word, air, that disabilities have similar disabilities, have similar solutions. And I think it totally misses the whole point. So if you're just joining, I'm Brian, Career Advice UK, founder and owner of Leap Forward Careers, that can be found at leapstartcareers.com. Provide support for those who are looking to navigate the UK job market. If you are looking for a job and you're struggling with interviewing, CVs, or just getting the motivation to find jobs, I do offer support. So whatever your question or need is, let me know. If you are struggling and sending out CVs, for example, and you're finding right now, hey, I'm not getting any responses back, how do I deal with it? Send me the word CV and I'll do a free CV review for you. So take a moment, take a look. If you need help with your CV, just message me. And if you do like the feed, please please share, please follow. And if you do feel inclined, but please don't feel as though you have to, please send gifts. Excuse me. As it does help me to know what people like. And so right now I'm talking a little bit because I have a post coming up on another social media website tomorrow regarding disability confidence scheme. And I'm talking a little bit about that, taking a little bit of time to talk about it. But again, if you do have a question, like why is my CV getting ghosted? How do I answer? Tell me something about yourself. How do I answer the question, why should we hire you? you know, feel free to put those questions down below to me. Likewise, if you are, thinking about starting your own business and you want some quick tips and advice, feel free. Or if you're going through clearing right now and need some advice and tips, especially in regards to bachelor degree in psychology, because that is the one question I get so much asked about. Feel free to put it down below. More than happy to pick it up from you and give you some tips and advice, because I have, over the last couple of my live streams, talked about doing the bachelor's degree in psychology. So if you have a question, feel free to put it down below. So do you have a... Do you want to know how to answer? Tell me something yourself. So how to answer that in an interview. So if you want to know, the question, tell me something about yourself. Feel free to do that, and I will give it to you. Or how to find your first job, how to write a CV without any job, So, or do you, the other thing, do you want to know how to write? Because another question I have got before, but haven't recently, is how do you, write a CV without any job experience? There is a way to do it. Hey, Ruben. I'm in contracts management, not projects. But you're close. That's really good, Ruben. So again, if you're just joining and you do like the feed, please like, please share, please follow. And if you do feel inclined, please send gifts, because it really does help me to know what is really resonating with people and what really works. And again, if you do like, please share, please follow, because it really does help me to know what is really people are liking. And so, kind of for this first part, the way I operate. If you're just joining, I'm Brian, owner and founder of Leap for Careers, found at leapstarcareers.com. It is a good question. The best way to always answer any type of question is by providing in an interview. And on Leap Start Careers, I do have a guide on what the method I use, which is called CAR, which is Context, Action, Result. And it's a lot easier. So what it would be is, when you answer the main thing to remember with answering any interview question, maybe entry level or senior management, is to provide examples. And so, again, if you're entry level, let's be honest, you don't have a lot of job experience, and that's fine, because employers know that. They know it's an entry level job. They know that you're going to be coming in with very minimal, if not any, job experience. So, what you can draw, hey, JR, thank you for the share. What you can do at that stage is think about anything that you've done teamwork. May have been at school, on a project, extracurricular, volunteering, wherever you worked as a part of a team. And think about it. And think about, how did that come up? What was your action? What did you do? Because the interviews, for lack of a better word, and apologies for swearing, don't give a shit about what others did. Hey, Harvey, thank you for the heart me. Because they don't. They don't care, if you're working with Joe or Mary, they don't give a shit about what they did, what they care about. Oh, thank you, Harvey, for the rose. What they care about strictly is this. What did you do? If you delegated, oh, thank you, Harvey. Thank you so much for the heart me and the roses. That's amazing. Um, because really what they are looking for is what you did. So if you delegated or you asked Mary or Joel, then what you need to say is, I delegated. I asked them to do this. And this is what the result was. And that is really what that's amazing, Liltha. Thank you. Thank you for the roses, everyone. Thank you for the gifts. That's amazing. And so what you really need to start to do is, talk about yourself. And I know that is probably the hardest thing you can do in an interview is talk about yourself, because we are taught from a very early age in school, family, wherever we go, wherever we participate, to think of others. And so, we are always taught that whatever we do is a group contribution. It is that kind of group, and we can't really separate ourselves from it. The reality is, when you go into the interview situation, it is totally different. It is kind of like the antithesis of what society expects. It goes against what we've taught, that we must always consider others. And so, hey, Miss Angel, good to see you. And so what it comes down to is this. It is you. They are concerned about what you have done. What have you contributed? And so, when you're doing a question about teamwork in an interview, like I said, it is, why did it come up? So, we were asked to answer, let's say, hypothetically, if you work in a customer service center, I was tasked with answering 50 calls in a day. So how did I work? As our team had a goal of 450 calls in a day. So I, as a way to be able to help to contribute to meet that goal, I made sure I arrived on time. I was logged in. I took my breaks only as long as needed. And where people may have needed a bit of help and take over some overflowing calls, I took some of those to help. As a result of my intervention, our team was able to succeed and meet actually 500. And again, when you're doing kind of the answering of questions and teamwork, again, if you can add numbers, figures, it's always great to do it. It is always about, what have you done? What have you contributed? And that is what people want to hear. So to answer the question, how do you answer the question about teamwork? Provide an example, because you're going to have, if they're, it is tough. Yeah, it is. It is. It's one that I've used and one I've developed myself. It's CAR. It's simpler than STAR, because every time I try to remember STAR in an interview, I just go blank. Can't remember it. And even if you can't remember the acronyms with CAR, the good thing with CAR is this. It is basically storytelling. It follows the structure of telling a story. And all you just need to do when you're doing CAR is, it's just break it down into context. Why did it come up? What did you do? And what was the result? Just like a story. You just tell it like you answered the question like a story. And that is really the heart of an interview. It is really about having a conversation with the interviewers So if you can do it as a conversation, get there, be relaxed, ask them questions back, and even if they ask you a question about team, about teamwork, and you're not sure, ask them for clarification. Always ask, it is your interview. You're there. The main thing about interviews is this. Remember two things. One, it's a conversation, so treat it as a conversation. It's not an interrogation, it's a conversation. Two, and most importantly, you're there to interview them too. It is not just them interviewing you, you're also there to interview them. Does that make sense? Anyone that's watching, have you ever had a interview go where it was just a conversation? You got to the point of having a conversation with them. Hey, Nikundo, good to see you. Or have you got it to the point where it's a conversation? Have you been able to also do it as an interview yourself? Have you asked them questions to help you decide, do you take it? Because again, I've done corporate, and it can be because corporate can be very formal, but you just have to always remember when you're going into like corporate interviews, remember they're people too, and yeah, they may be interviewing other people, but guess what? You're also there to interview them. Because really, if you break it down, that interview, and break it down, what it is really about is this. And if you peel it back, hey, oi, if you peel back what an interview is about, an interview is about the business that's interviewing you, the organization that's interviewing you, sees that you have a skill. And they see that you have a skill that they want. And you have something that they want. So you're in a bit of not a big position, and I want to really be clear on that. You don't have a lot of power, because remember too, they're interviewing other people, but you do have some power, because they have a skill, they have a need, and you're able, through your skills, knowledge, and experience, to solve that gap for them. And so for you, you need to be also talking about, hey, it is, you are in a position to a certain degree to see if this is a good fit for you. So always, when you go into an interview, remember that, because it is one that will help you and guide you in your decision. Now, I have two accounts. One is Career Advice, and the other one I have is my business one, Leap Forward Careers. And under Leap Forward Careers, yesterday I did content talking about 3 red flags when you're in an interview to look for. And I think that is really important. Hey, Professor and Grace. And I think that is very, very, very important to remember when you're going into an interview, to look for red flags. That may say, again, does that mean if you see a red flag, do you need to say no to it automatically? No, it doesn't. But what it does say, it kind of pre-warns you about it may not be the right situation for you. Hey, no problem. You too. You have a great day, and thank you for your questions. So yes, so take a look. Um, so take a look. So I have been so good to see you. So if you're just joining, um, and you do like the feed, please like, please share, and please follow. And if you do feel inclined, but don't feel those, you have to please send gifts, because it does help me to know what is resonating with people. If you're just joining and wondering who I am, I'm Brian, Career Advice UK. That's my TikTok handle, Career Advice UK. I run and own Leap Forward Careers, found at leapstartcareers.com. And I provide interview support, CV support for those of you, and also job searching advice and tips, and a bit more. I do have services. Also, the site does have, leapstartcareers.com does also have books at a small fee, guides. Some are free, some have our minimal cost, and also to information for you on various aspects of the job application recruitment process. Hey, thank you, Amina. Thank you for the follow. Thank you so much for the follow. So, so yes. So there's a lot of support there. It gives you the list of services, guides, books, and also chock full of information, including a interview question data bank that asks you interview questions. It then feedbacks to you on, what was, strong points with your answer, what is weaknesses, and what should you look at to improve. Likewise, it also allows you to ask it interview questions. It then will fire back, how you answer that question to help you best position yourself in an interview. So it is a free, no obligation tool to help you prepare for your next job interview. So if you're just joining, again, if you like, please share, please follow. And so kind of beginning to hit about the halfway point here. And so if you have any questions, so if your CVs, I'm going to put a little message here, are your CVs being ghosted? So, so if you're sending off your CV and you're just getting ghosted, meaning you send it off, nobody is, and it's just not getting any responses, no interviews, let me know. I will walk you through. I can do it as either free CV review, or I can do real quick on the comments here. Give you a few tips and advice on how you can quickly rectify it, or at least ways to kind of triage what's going on to see what is happening. So, and what I'm going to also ask is, what is the so next question is, what is the most difficult interview question you have faced? So if you have a, if you faced, if you do have a difficult question, what is the most difficult one that you face? Because I can give you a few tips and advice on how to work that out. So if you have a question there, um, so if you have a question in regards to interview questions, because I can give you a bit of tips and advice. So feel free to ask, and I've just put up a poll question, and so feel free to. The question I have posed is, what is the biggest challenge to finding a job? And if you do, Verity, if you do have, let's say, a question about how to answer interview questions, please let me know and I'll pick that up. Hey, Ceci and Lammy, good to see you all. So, what is your question? Hey, Jules, good to see you. So, if you do please please share and please follow. And if you do feel inclined but don't feel so you have to, please send gifts, because it does help me to know what resonates with my viewers. Hey, Raman, how are you? So yes, so if you have a question, so one more question, because I do I'm doing good. Glad to hear you're doing good. So, how many? So if you are, I'm doing this one because kind of moving into the second half here, and to talk about third interviews and kind of give you a bit of orientation to what are third interviews and what's involved with third interviews. Because I've asked that question, how many rounds of interviews have you faced? Because it is so what is so if you had So if you've had more than one round, let me know, because I'm just kind of curious to do a bit of a kind of survey of what it is, how many it has shifted, because it does seem like it has shifted a bit. The UK job marketplace has a bit shifted. So when we're talking about really three interviews, really what the kind of the interview structure is and what they're looking for, it's kind of like this. The first round of interviews is really to see, do you have the skills and qualifications to meet the role? The second one is really where they're trying to kind of pit you against the others to see, who are going to be the final candidates, who are the best fit, that fit most closely to the role. And the third one is, by the time you hit number 3, they know that you can do the job. They know you have the skills that they're looking for. You're a very good fit for the role. But it is now coming down to that third point. It's, are you the best fit for the organization? And that's really what it is coming down to. Are you the best fit for the team? Are you the best fit for the organization? And, are you, the best candidate. And typically when you hit the third round, it doesn't always happen, but once you hit round 3, you are typically being interviewed by a lot more senior managers. It is really a, it is very much a taking a look at who is the best fit, who's going to fit well with the team, who's going to be well fit with the organization. And so that third round is not, when you get to that third interview, you should not be preparing the same way you did for the first 2, because in this round, it is more about organizational team fit than anything else. And the way you start to prepare that is by learning about the organization, learning what you can about the team, learning about anything you can about the position of that business, because you're going to be asked questions that are more kind of commercial awareness. What do you know about the organization? What do you know about our values? What do you know about the team? And that is going to so it is so it is so it is at that point, when you get at that third interview, it is what you know about the organization. It is what you know about everyone. It is that type of conversation you have. And it is having that type of conversation with the interviewers, and also to, it is how you fit. So you need to really show how you fit into that organization. And it is by doing your research and your preparation and asking the right questions. And that is how you get through the third interview. It is really about being able to make that change, because they're going to ask you a lot of questions. It is going to be, how are you going to be able to make and respond under pressure? How do you respond under pressure? What is it? How do you make decisions, when you're facing competing information? It is a very kind of pressure interview, because they really want to see how do you perform under pressure. What do you know about the role? How are you going to be fitting into that role, fitting into the team? Are you going to be one that they can truly trust to do what they're asking for? And it is, I think, right now, because it is very competitive in the UK right now, when you factor in people who are looking to do career change and change jobs, I would argue the number is closer to three applicants for every job. And right now it's 707,000, so we're talking just right around 2.1 million people looking for a job for 707,000 available vacancies. And that is not really a good situation. And so businesses are just taking their time. They're making sure that when they are hiring, because of the increased costs in hiring through the rise of national insurance, rising energy costs, and rising taxes on businesses, that they're getting the right fit. And so if you're making it to the third round, it is all about showing that you researched the role, you researched the organization, and you're a good fit for both the organization and for the team. And if you're not able to do that, it is going to be a lot more difficult for you. Um, and it is going to be a lot more of a challenge. Um, so, so when you go into an interview or preparing for your interview, what is your biggest interview challenge? You know, what is the challenge that you face? Is it being relaxed? Is it treating it as a conversation? You know, is it feeling as though you're being interrogated, not knowing how to answer? So, what is the biggest challenge you face? Because I do spend a lot of time. I do spend time talking about kind of the structure end of things. So, what is the biggest challenge you face interviewing? So, if you are just joining and you do like, hey, Jaden, if you're just joining, do like the feed, please like, please share, and please follow. And if you do feel so inclined, but don't feel so you have to, please send gifts because it does help me to know what resonates with people. So it is. So if you're joining too, I'm Brian from LeapStartCareers.com. And I run Leap Forward Careers. Leap Forward Careers, helping individuals navigate UK recruitment process along with businesses, talking about oh well, that's good. I'm glad to hear that, Jaden. That is so good. That's amazing. Wish you just the best. That's amazing. Glad to hear that. Hey, no problem. I'm glad to hear that you're happy and that it worked out. That is just so amazing. And I'm glad that it worked out for you and that the tips and advice helped you. So thank you so much for letting me know. That's great. So, yeah, so if you are just joining, and you like the feed, please like, please share, please follow. I will kind of beginning, hey, no problem. That's what I'm here for. That is exactly why I do it. So, yes, so if you're just joining, been talking a bit about, in the first half, disability confidence scheme, and in the second part, a bit of the third interview and interviewing and interviewing. So that is the second part, is talking a bit about interview. And during the first part, did mention that on another social media website, I will be publishing a bit of an article, one of the many that I do on disability, and in particular, this one will be on the disability confidence scheme. And that will be kind of my own personal experience as someone who has a hidden disability with asthma, talking about that and why I feel that the program has very little teeth, and what I think is kind of what good looks like. So that will be going live tomorrow, 8 a.m. And once it goes live, I will put in the link for you into my profile so you can take a look at it. And the second part, I've talked about, hey, Rahim, good to see you. Second part, talking about interviews and how do talking about what does a third round of interviews look like, how to prepare for an interview, um, and what do you need to get ready for an interview. Um, so if you have a question, drop it down below because I will easily pick it up. Any questions? I still have just over 15 minutes here, so I do have more than enough capacity to answer one or two more questions. And again, the way, if you're looking at the timer, the way that works is it gets extended when gifts are sent. Again, you don't have to send gifts, but it is a way to extend my time to answer and ask more questions. Hey, Irma. So kind of talking about the third part, that second part about having a interview and preparing for it. And I spent a bit of time talking about earlier about CAR, and that is contacts, your actions and results, and kind of talking about what is an interview, what is involved with an interview, because really at the end of the day, an interview it's a two-way street, and an interview is your chance also for you to interview the your potential employer. And so what it means then at that stage, if you're able, you can ask them questions, to help you decide. And so what it will do at that stage, it will be very much for you at that stage, to ask questions helps you to decide if they're right for you, because it's like I say, when you're talking about interviews, the real important thing is for you to know and be confident that this is the right choice for you. So I'm going to ask the question, do you interview So the question I have is, do you interview a prospective employer during the interview? Do you do it? Because it'd be interesting to know, because a lot of times I think people really forget that they are the ones, it is also for you, because you're going to be the one signing that employment contract in the UK. And if you don't know enough about that interview, about that organization, how they operate, what are the expectations of the role, what does that role involve, then you can't, in my opinion, really shouldn't accept it, because you're just maybe getting yourself into something that you may not be ready for, and it may not wind up being a good situation for you. So I would just say to you, use that opportunity to your advantage, go in as I would probably call you. Hey, Amber, good to see you back again. As a Leap Forward Careers warrior, making sure that, you're finding the job that best fits for you, that you've done your research, that you've done your research, that you've brought people in, you've asked the questions, you've had a chance to really interview them, and you're 100% confident that if they make an offer, that you will accept it. And if you feel like it's not the situation for you, then you feel confident to reject it. I don't always say, you should reject. You need to think about your own position, financial position. Are you able to withstand, looking further? If you do reject, it's all those decisions. But again, take a look, think about it before you take that offer, because really it is, again, by interviewing them too, it may be a point you raise when it's offered, and do a little bit of negotiating with them. Hey, thank you, Amber, for the share. Doing a bit of negotiation on that job. It is, interviewing. It is really about you interviewing them, asking the questions, and being able to make that decision. And again, if there's a point you want to interview about, then take a moment and interview and ask and negotiate on those points so that you get the best possible contract, and the best start that you can. Because once you put your name on the dotted line and you sign that contract, you lose all of your power up until that point. And especially when you get the offer, you hold probably the most amount of power. So it will be a lot easier for you to negotiate anything than it is at any other stage. So, use that information you've had. Make sure you ask the important questions so that you can decide and move on from there. Hey, Sammy and Vondi and Irma and Phil, good to see you all. So if you have a question, still have about 10 minutes and more if I do get a few more gifts. But again, don't feel inclined to send them. But if I do, I do have enough time to take a question. So anyone has a question, feel free to put it down below. If you've done an interview, when you do go into an interview and you do ask questions, you do a bit of interviewing yourself. What has been the result? Has it worked for you? Did you find it worked? Be interested in hearing. So, we're coming down to less than 10 minutes. It really depends on the level of the job you're applying for. If it's kind of like entry level, you just need to do a little bit of research and something to kind of show, oh, well, thank you, Amber, for the clap. Oh, that's nice. Thank you. But if the more you go up, the more senior the role is, you need to do a bit more. Usually when you're, oh, thank you, Amber, for the roses. Oh, that's nice. Thank you so much. I would say the more senior you go, the bit more you're going to do. In the cover letter, what you really just need to say is, a bit about why you're applying for the role, and why, you selected this role over others. And so why did you pick the company? Why did you pick this role? At a very kind of entry level, kind of maybe middle administrative type of role. Oh, thank you, Amber, for the finger heart. Oh, that's amazing. Thank you. Thank you for the heart me. Oh, thank you, Amber. Take a little bit. Oh, thank you for the roses. Thank you so much. Oh, thank you. So again, cover letter is very much about kind of a guide to your CV. It kind of fills in the gaps. It's your way of introducing to yourself to the company. So you don't need to spend a lot of research on the company. So added kind of like an entry level type of cover letter. You can say, applying for the job because I have the skills that meet. I feel I have the skills that meet the requirements set out in the job description. I particularly like, you know, this organization because, something like that, something very simple and basic. By the way, I do have cover letter templates available at Leap Start Careers, just to make a mention. At a more senior level, you may want to add a bit more, a little bit, maybe a sentence like, if you like the way, the organization has, like for me, for being one with hidden disability due to asthma, maybe your approach, to way that, the way this organization has dealt with disabled individuals or something, or opening up opportunities for the disabled, something like that. This shows that you've done a little bit more digging into what they've done. So you're going from like at an entry level, kind of a very kind of like vague, mention to something when you're going up a bit more kind of middle management to senior kind of management. It's something picking out something very specific that you like about the organization. If you know something about the person who's going to be interviewing you, and you know who's going to be interviewing you, maybe even mention something like that, or the team if you're familiar with the team. And kind of at that point, again, can you do that, at an entry level? Of course you can. It will show that you have, done a lot of research and you have some knowledge of it. But again, you're not required. So to answer the question, you don't need to do a lot. You just need to be able to show and kind of connect the dots as to why you're applying for it. So at a very kind of intro level, you can keep it very kind of basic as to why you're applying. If you're going into a more middle management, senior management role, then you may need to add a bit more detail and maybe pick out some specifics to kind of really show that you understand what the organization does, what the role's about, to help you out. Where you're going to really need to do the research is the preparation for the interview, because that is where a lot of the kind of commercial awareness type of questions will come. And especially at the kind of entry level kind of standard jobs, it will be very much a kind of question about what do you know about the organization, what do you know about their values. Oh, thank you all for the likes. That's amazing. And so, yes. So as for information, I would say keep it. So, yes. So if you're just joining, if you like the video, like the feed, so yeah, so simple point, not a lot of information in a cover letter, but make sure you do the research for the interview. Now, coming down to just under 6 minutes, about 5 minutes here. Oh, thank you, Shabazz, for the follow. That's amazing. Thank you so much. So for tomorrow, I will be back at 4 a.m. British Summer Time, taking your questions on anything career related. I have about just right over 5 minutes, so happy to take one more question, unless I get extended. Again, don't feel as though you need to send gifts. And I will be taking your topics. And so I've talked about today, what I've talked about has been kind of three things. talked about disability confidence scheme. That includes my upcoming article on another social media site talking about my experience with the scheme. I've spent time talking about interviews, in particular the third round of interviews, and just finished answering a really good question about research and preparation for an interview, for a cover letter, excuse me. The advice was simply, you need to do some, and how much information you put in the cover letter really depends on the role. So coming back, I have no idea what South African laws. I can't answer that. You would need to have somebody who's familiar with South African laws answer it. The best thing I can answer would be on UK. I know there's a bit of a relationship between UK and South Africa. From a UK perspective, as long as the information that is required by legislation is there, such as your pay rate, the number of hours, the hours you work, the deductions that have been made, the format, typically is how they present it can easily be changed as long as they comply with the compliance end of things, the legal requirements that the payslip requires. As long as those are met, how they present it is up to them, because each company will present differently. Now, in South Africa, I don't know. I really can't answer that. And again, you would need to have someone more knowledgeable in South African law to tell you. But it is more about how it's presented. If it's more about how's it presented, and it is, and all the core elements are there, like your number of hours worked, your hourly rate, how much you've made, and then go through the deductions for like taxes, pension, anything else, and then maybe any additional payments that if you come, required, filed an expense, like claim back any bonuses and all that may be paid. As long as all that information is there, and you know exactly how much each one is, then it typically isn't an issue under UK. How it gets presented, it's more about I'm not sure what you're asking. Again, South African can't answer it. I do know, like in UK, for example, there are splits. Sometimes, like national insurance, employees will pay they're part of national insurance, and businesses will pay it. And they will split it that way. So it is, so they may say yes. Hey, thank you for the roses. So they may actually, combine, and there may be certain times like, national insurance and UK national insurance, NHS, and all these are other ones, skills levy benefits. So yes, it may be that they split, and again, you may wind up having to pay, if you have insurance, medical insurance, they may pay a part and you may pay a part, and and so again, it is, can be a shared expense between the two. But again, this is kind of UK into things. South Africa is totally different. Maybe totally different. And again, it's best to speak with someone who is more knowledgeable on South African law. So beginning to wind down here. So I will hang around for a couple moments here to see if anyone contributes anything to extend the time, because it has been a really great day, really fun and enjoyable day. So I'm gonna just hang around a couple moments and just see so if anyone has any questions, just a reminder, I will be back tomorrow 4 a.m. British Summer Time to take your questions. Yeah, so they will, like I said, employees will typically split, especially when it comes to benefits and stuff like insurance and stuff, and taxes. There are some tax burdens that get split. So if you are just joining, I'm just going to be winding down and just going to see. No problem. That's what I'm here for. So yes, so if you are just joining, I will be back tomorrow at 4 a.m. British Summer Time, taking your questions. I want to thank everyone for a great day. The gifts, the likes, the shares, and the follows. And I will see you back.